welcome to this ET Now special coming to you from the Make My Trip headquarters in Gurgaon. In fact, we're part of their office, which is called Shackathon. It is actually, made out to be like a shack, and I've got a rare television interview for you folks. Deep Kalra, as well as the new Group Chief Executive Officer, Rajesh Magow. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining us here on Startup Central and ET Now. Are you both about to do the unthinkable, which no e-commerce large-scale company on this planet has done, which is declare a profit? I'll let one of you take it, whichever one you can decide.
So I think it's only fair that the group CEO should take this question.
Wow. So, okay, let me just take this. Yeah, I think we will very soon be there, and that's the path that we chose. And I think it's a function of the stage of evolution, if you will. I don't know if you noticed the last reported quarter's numbers that we reported. We had a, $10-11 million kind of an adjusted operating loss that we reported out.
You halved your losses?
We halved our losses from the last year. And that's, we're hoping, subject to all the macro conditions, that we will keep that trend continuing.
But I want to come to that. And Deep, I'll let you answer this one. This flight to green, this flight to profitability, can it and will it be hijacked by coronavirus? How bad is it? I'm sure you're feeling the hit. There's a human angle to it, but now we're seeing the business angle also being talked about.
Yeah, sure. And just before that, I think we should qualify it by saying going back into the black. We were profitable just before IPO and for a couple of years after, so till 2012. Unfortunately, after that, due to various macro circumstances in the air business, etc., and then very conscious market building in the hotel side, we very consciously started investing in the business for growth. But coming to your question, and I think it's a really germane one, which is, what is going to be the full-blown impact of COVID-19? The reality is nobody knows. But the reality is it's quite scary because just yesterday, as we know, Europe is now opened up with a bang, and suddenly with this little town in Italy, people saying 150 cases and spreading. Austria, Croatia. So I think the impact of that, the implication of that will follow, just like that we saw from the Far East. So first it was China, and then when it moved to other countries, naturally there were a lot of cancellations as well as slowdown in bookings, which was expected. We also saw an interesting trend of some people swap their plans and switch from it when it was a leisure trip from eastbound to westbound. Now, if Europe indeed is going to be that bad, I think there's going to be a lot of, backlash, or rather, I think a coming down of outbound travel, which is going to get hit quite bad.
But we're also doing the interview on a day where it has been officially said that the Tokyo Olympics, the date could be changed. Nestle has said none of its employees in the world are going to be traveling at least till 15th of March. How are you folks dealing with this? I'm sure you're seeing a slew of cancellations. There's a human angle. Do you still charge for the cancellations?
You know what? So this is obviously true, right? But in terms of what is going to be the potential actual impact, it will only unfold in future.
What has been the impact so far?
So I'll tell
day by day?
I'll tell you from our point of view, predominant business for us is India right now. So our outbound business, which is the one that has got impacted, and that too short-haul destinations. All the Southeast Asia destinations got impacted. China back and forth was not too much for us. But all the neighboring, countries were there, whether it is Thailand or Malaysia or Hong Kong or Singapore, all of those have got impacted. But the reality is that for us, that business is about 20% of our total business. And within that 20% of that total business is Southeast Asia business, which is the one that has got impacted. Now, if it spreads further to,
also big, right?
Well, if it spreads to, Middle East is big, and especially Dubai. And then it goes to Europe and US and the other destinations. So if it spreads beyond this, right, so then overall that 20% of the business, which is our outbound business, potentially could get impacted. Now, part of that, we are hoping, and again, all of this is, like I was just saying, subject to macro, this is what exactly I meant, so unless we know how far this is going to go, it'll be very hard for us to be able to quantify the impact. But there's going to be certainly some impact. But we'll know why. I'm hoping that some of this travel will switch to India because what we have not seen, which is the silver lining right now, is the impact, except for first week,
Kerala, yeah.
you know, Kerala, and then there was a sentiment.
And they were discharged.
They were discharged, and the sentiment was weak. You know, just first kind of overreaction, if you will, but then that settled down. So the domestic travel is happening. I don't see that as an issue right now. Fingers crossed. But rest we will only be able to tell when it unfolds in future.
Yeah, and you raised a good point about large corporates, saying, listen, no business travel. And I think that impact, if that were to happen in a bigger way and others were to follow suit, I guess there will be some impact domestically. Right now, Indians are fairly intrepid. And within India, of course, the flights, everything's going actually almost at
the same level.
Full levels, yeah.
Oh, they're still going?
Yeah, they're going. We haven't seen any perceptible drop on domestic travel.
On domestic travel. And Rajesh brought a very interesting point that this could be an opportunity for India to actually attract tourism, to attract inbound travel. Do you guys have plans for that?
Yeah. Inbound is actually pretty interesting, and it's something which, ironically, that's how we started our business. So for the first 5 years of our existence, the only thing we did was people overseas, particularly Indians, NRIs coming back to India. So not so much for leisure, but more visiting friends and relatives, as it's called, VFR. But some of them would mix trips. So we know that business. The reason we haven't really done it in a full-blown manner to get foreigners and all is it's still a much smaller segment than domestic and outbound. You have to just see the numbers. Hundreds of millions of Indians travel domestically every year. About 35 million travel overseas every year. Inbound travel is still in single-digit millions, of which the genuine holiday traveler is probably 3 to 5 million. So it's a smaller business. It's also harder to find them on the internet. So if you look at it, India is still an exotic place for many people. So if you look at a typical Caucasian tourists coming in from North America or Europe, they look at India as, a pretty interesting but exotic land, and they're quite happy to come to India as part of a package or being kind of, helped by someone along the way. It's still not an a la carte destination for many, where they'll book their flights separately, they'll book their hotels separately. Some people who are comfortable coming to India who've been here before, but most other people would look at India just like we would look at probably going to a really remote place in the world where we'd say, hey, listen, we'd rather be like, and language and everything else plays a role. So I think inbound is something we're definitely studying, but I don't think right now we're doing this in a massive way beyond looking at hotels inbound, which we've started. So today people can find MakeMyTrip online anywhere in the world for hotels and book a hotel and come. But for inbound tour packages and all, we think that's a slightly different business.
So I have to ask this question because you brought up hotels, and I'm sure you can guess what my next question is going to be. The regulatory hurdle that you're facing with the Competition Commission of India, saying prima facie you have abused dominant position, it's named you, vertical agreements with OYO. Do you have any reaction to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think exactly what we said in the press. I mean, we are, obviously deeply distressed to get this news. It's not something which we believe is fair on us, but we have to go by the process. We're cooperating, working closely with the CCI and answering all the questions as and when they'll come up. We really believe that the hotel market is huge and fragmented, and we know for a fact that not more than 10-15% of it has moved online, of which we have a part. So we just, are such a small part of the accommodations market in India that, this is for us a little hard to appreciate completely, but, we'll follow.
And what about that vertical agreement with OYO as business?
We have a commercial agreement, and like we have commercial agreements with so many hotel partners. I mean, it's not any different from that. OYO is obviously a very large player. It's, emerged very quickly and a very large player in the budget space. And this is a commercial agreement like we have with many others.
Rajesh Magow, you're also the man of the moment. You're the Group Chief Executive Officer now of the MakeMyTrip Group. It's been, 2 weeks? Did you curse him on the timing? There's been coronavirus, there's been Competition Commission of India, now you have all these, it's very unfortunate in the national capital and very close to your headquarters. You've got the riots that are taking place, Section 144. This is, it's not a great time at the moment.
Well, probably not from a macro standpoint, and from that perspective, if you really see it from that lens, could have been better.
You've been thrown in the deep water from day one.
Yeah,
basically.
well, but the way I look at it is slightly different, to be honest, because the way. A lot of people are reading too much into this change. From our perspective, it's actually not like a great change or a massive big change, because the way we are going to operate is not going to be very different. I mean, you can split forces, you can split roles and all of that, but it's going to be the same combination that's going to take MakeMyTrip to the new heights. So I see it from that point of view, and we've together, Nayantara, if you go back in history, weathered many such storms. If you go back really in history, when we actually set it up, there was 9/11 in that year, and there was SARS that happened in that year. And in front of us, we've seen more than 2 airlines going down as well. So there have been many cycles, and the travel is that kind of business that you will have cycles, right? So you will go through these cycles. It's okay.
Because it's just the start of it. Now look what's happening in the bond market, the currency markets. All of this, we still don't know how big the impact is going to be.
You're absolutely right. And overall macro is not that great. I mean, the global GDP is under stress, Indian GDP is under stress and all of that. And so from that point of view, the demand is generally under stress. But you know what? At least we've seen from our own experience in the past, that these cycles actually let you focus on really fundamental and the core things. Yeah. And if you're able to just stay focused on that, you actually come out even more stronger, far more stronger. And we've done that in the past. So hopefully we will be able to replicate that.
Are you more informal than Deep? I'm just saying because you're in a t-shirt and he's in a formal attire.
Actually,
I'm in jeans.
Well, the viewers can only see your shirt.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I wore a jacket today, and I was surprised to see Rajesh wearing it. Normally we coordinate, like we normally get it right. We'll both show up in a jacket and jeans or something like that.
That's chemistry that you guys are usually thinking alike, from dress code to business?
Well, actually, I'd like to say that, but the reality is that we both just keep jackets in office. So that, but yeah, I'd like to comment on that too, and I think Rajesh put it well. I think we have. I don't want to jinx it by saying this, but I think the combo has delivered very different roles for a long time.
Yeah.
So startup right from the beginning. We've now worked together, literally for 19 odd years. So we've known each other, worked together right from then. But even at IPO time, Rajesh was the CFO and I was the CEO, and we took the company public. And he continued to be CFO for a while. And as anyone knows, when you do an IPO, I think the CFO does a lot of the heavy lifting.
And that also at NASDAQ.
At NASDAQ, absolutely.
Yeah.
The CFO does a lot of the heavy lifting. So that was a very interesting combo. And then he moved, as we got in another CFO, Mohit came in, Rajesh moved to COO role and CEO India role. And I think we really don't codify this the way it's made out to be that much. I think a lot of it has happened naturally, which is, I think, we play to our strengths. And we try not to overlap too much. So I think this is really a formalization of the same thing, which is the CEO role today, and the company has become of a certain scale at a very interesting turning point, and scale and turning point will focus, as we should, on quarter to quarter and maybe the next year ahead. And this decoupling of roles should allow the executive chairman role to focus on things which may not pay off in this fiscal year, but could be things that we need to do later, even a couple of years sometimes, because technology is changing so fast. So you can be scanning and looking for different things. And that was really, I think, the reason behind this. And again, I don't think we formally kind of say, okay, I'm going to do this and there's this strict line. Yeah. I think it's very seamless and we just play to our strengths. And thankfully, like I said, I don't want to jinx it, so knock on wood, it just happens quite effortlessly.
Yeah, no, I think there's, just to add to what Deep just said, I think this was an important point that he made, that we were thinking ahead. We were actually thinking 5 years ahead. And we're saying, okay, we've just now completed 3 years of merger with IBIBO Group. Like, I mean, it takes a lot to get it right. And we believe that we've done a reasonably good job on that. So when you are now here, when things have kind of panned out well, from that perspective, 3 brands, now where do we think in the next 5 years that we want to take this group to? So when you think, and so thinking was far more futuristic, just to future-proof the overall group and see how could we split forces and focus on different things. Having said that, while you define it in the beginning, but again, there are no real lines drawn.
Okay.
if you will. So we can just,
And is that typical in internet companies, or is it just because you guys have been around and working for nearly 2 decades?
Perhaps. I mean, you could perhaps say, I was probably going to make the same point. So, you see the young, new age companies probably give very less, from practical purposes, from an operational purposes, very less importance to all these titles, because the way they operate is very porous, it's not really hard lines drawn literally, because it's just not that. I mean, at least both Deep and I, when we talk to the leadership team also, we kind of say this. And the way they operate is also like that. So it's not that it's very hard and fast that a particular guy who works straight line, there's a lot of straight line and dotted lines.
So are you both equals, or is there an hierarchy?
No, we're totally equal. It's totally no problem at all. Yeah.
So it's that's understood, right? So it's just
I
about
think
titles
totally.
and overlap, because you guys have worked for 2 decades.
I think it's totally understood. Yeah, I think
and
internally.
is that common in internet companies?
I think in our case, it's the luxury of two and the luxury of different skill sets, maybe. So I would say one of the companies that's done it really well, and probably we look at them quite a bit involuntarily, is the InfoEdge group.
Okay.
So if you look at Naukri, you look at Sanjeev, and he's taken on the executive chairman role for a while. And they've got group companies and investments, and Hitesh runs the business on a day-to-day basis, but they're fully both clued on many things. So I think that's a good comparison. And again, it can happen only if you have that complete comfort. And what's most important is that the team doesn't get conflicting messages.
Exactly.
So the first thing just around this was a message when this announcement was made. We'd of course just shared it with the leadership team on the very same day and explained the rationale, and everyone said, yeah, so what changes? And we said, not much. And then we had a mini town hall with our next level of managers, so the 150 managers in Delhi and Bangalore, and we explained it, and everyone I think understands it and appreciates it. And they'll probably see more of us in one area and less of the other, and vice versa. And that's the whole idea. Can we actually play to our strengths? And can we give more focus by doing this decoupling on certain areas which weren't getting sufficient focus?
And this is something that maybe, like you look at InfoEdge, now you're doing it, and let's hope that other startups also look at you, because you do see that when, certain organizations reach a certain stage, people start looking in different directions. And in the last 1 year, you've actually seen an exodus of exits of founders.
Yeah, I think that's pretty hard when a co-founder leaves, because
and we have seen that in the last 1 year a lot.
We've clearly read about a few, and it's definitely hard, but I'm sure only internally do people know why it's happening, and there must be reasons behind that. But it's a tough time for the company, because a lot of companies, and even a company like ours, which is now going to be 20 years old next month, it doesn't seem like that. Even us, I think there are a lot of people out here who attach a lot of value to the fact that it's still a founder-driven company. So I think that's important here.
I think there's one more important point. Sorry, I'm just wanting to add one more point. I think it's relevant. I think while it comes across that, at the point that you made, as the organizations scale up, while the fronts would be one founder or two founders kind of running it, I would think what is very important, and I know Deep has actually been doing this for the last so many years, we've built a very solid leadership team. So, so it's also the overall leadership team strength that you actually built up to scale up the organization. It's just not possible without that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the brand is bigger than the person, basically, is what you're trying to tell me.
Oh, any day. I think no one person here is more important, even remotely close to the company or the brand. And the team allows us to do this. I think we've always built for the future. So I think in terms of building the leadership team, and next level for us, it's always been only when you get good people in, will you be able to do something
So
special.
now when you're building for the future, what are you building?
So I think what we're trying to build is the kind of brand that we have, and the salience that we enjoy for the simple air ticket, because I think it's fair to say when people think buying an air ticket in India, MakeMyTrip and GoIBibo do come to mind, both our brands. When people think buying a bus ticket, intercity bus ticket, particularly down south and in the west, it's all Red Bus. Red Bus sells anywhere between 1.5 to 2 lakh tickets a day. It's a huge brand in that space. And so
1.5 to 2 lakh tickets a day.
Yeah, and I think we need to.
It's more, he's saying, he's correcting you.
Yeah, is that?
Meaning,
okay,
I mean,
Rajesh knows it better.
the
That's why he's the CEO. So, but you know, yeah. So there are days where the group together has done 500,000 transactions, which is on peak days. So it's of a certain scale. But I think what we'd love to do is to be able to build the same connect with customers when it comes to customers choosing their accommodation needs, both in India and outside. And I say accommodations because it's beyond hotels today. Alternate accommodations, whether it's villas or it's apartments or it's cottages up in the hills, have become a big way for people to travel and stay in while at work or on leisure. And when they're going overseas also now, people are seeking out these options because they are more wholesome for the family. People are seeking out villa options because they're saying, hey, we want our privacy, we want space for the kids to run around. And
that's a new trend you're seeing?
It's huge.
It's huge for villas?
Really huge. So I think we'd love to.
And I think you guys did some acquisition and you've entered this business formally, right?
So in the alternate accommodation space, we've done it organically.
Yeah.
The recent acquisition last year was in the corporate travel space,
okay,
where we acquired a company, and that's another new area of development. And you were saying, what are you building? So one is accommodations. We want to build that brand association, and we want to build that brand love that we enjoy otherwise. And we're on our way. I think it's moving well. It's a tougher market. So getting people to book an unknown hotel online is many times tougher than booking a ticket.
But how is it different from an Airbnb or an OYO?
So they're both very distinct models. Airbnb does only non-hotel properties, and they do that very well around the world.
That's what you want to do,
Right.
alternate accommodation.
So we are now already offering more than 10,000 such properties on our platform in addition to hotels. But we want to do it more from the customer point of view, which is when a customer gets in to look at a place to stay, he or she should see all the options, not just hotels. Because I don't think people come in up front saying, hey, I'm not going to stay on a hotel on this trip. I think people come in saying, we need a nice place to stay within our budget. And that's how the process starts. It could be a hotel, it could be a villa, and it could be something in between. So I think that's our take on that. And then another new business that we've invested in a pretty big way is corporate travel. Obviously, corporate travel accounts for a very large percentage of people traveling every day. We used to do our own SME travel, we call it MyBiz, and now we've got into the full-fledged, what we call managed corporate travel space, so large companies, through the acquisition of Quest to Travel. So now we have the whole bouquet of corporate travel services for large corporates as well as for self-help SMEs.
And that's the business that could perhaps be a little hit, I guess, because of coronavirus. We'll see how that...
Yeah, we'll see how it plays.
Yeah, for outbound for sure, at this point in time. And on the retail side, just to add one more point on besides these new businesses that we are doing, you know, just from a future perspective. So, you know, MakeMyTrip was known for flight bookings first and then hotels. And now we are trying to transition it to say one-stop shop, that it is going to be the travel super app for future, where every retail consumer in India should think if he or she is planning for a trip or thinking of travel, should only think about the group.
Right.
You know, so between the
so
three
more
brands.
acquisitions?
Well, we just finished one, you
Yeah,
know, for the last 3 years, and it was a pretty big one. No, I think, you know, we've always kept our minds open to looking at the niche areas, looking at any interesting areas, and a lot of that, by the way, you know, given that your position in the market, you will get inbound interest as well. But at this point in time, you know, the focus will be to just, given that we've just made many, entered into new product offerings, new businesses, new segments that we are trying to acquire, we are focused on organically. And if there's anything interesting that you would always evaluate on merit.
You know, look what's happening because of the coronavirus on the Dow. You know, $1.7 trillion wiped out. How often do both of you look at the share price?
You want the real answer?
Yeah.
As little as can be. See,
But the last 2-3 days you looked at it more?
You can't help it. You can't help it, right? Because the news is, it's big. So on a steady state thing, not at all. Because on steady state, actually, I believe that one should look at the stock price only in two scenarios. One is if the company is looking to raise money, which we're not. And secondly, if you're looking to sell personal stock, which we're not. So if you're not in either scenario, it's a vanity metric. It's important for employees, it's important for investors.
Yeah, ESOPs and all of
Correct.
that.
So I mean, we definitely look at the stock much more just after an earnings. So we had a fantastic response to this earnings. But then look at what macros can do. They can just completely ravage the market. So
I don't believe you check it once a quarter.
No, we don't. No,
I'm sure you look at it personally a lot more.
Well, we get a daily email, so it's hard not to. You get a daily email from NASDAQ, and then you get a daily email from your analyst who gives you some kind of metric, so you know what's going on, which is fine, but I don't think you obsess on it.
Okay.
Also, I don't think the stock market is a really accurate indicator of what's happening in the company today. So we have to understand the stock market is reacting to what you reported of last quarter. Very often you report the quarter 30 to 40 days after the quarter is done.
Exactly, yeah.
How do they know what's happening right now? Actually, they don't. So their basis on other things that are happening. Macro is very important. But fundamentally, if we have an incredible product that's being built right now in the company, which is going to come out and change a lot of things for the company, stock market has no idea about it because we haven't shared that with anyone, because we'll share it only when it's out there and it's done well. So I think it's a lag.
So you're one of those entrepreneurs and founders who can leave not obsess about the stock price and believe that, you...
Quite immune to it.
And
Absolutely.
you?
Absolutely, because you can't do much about it. I mean, think about it. You can only focus on what you can control, right? Which is your own performance.
Yeah.
What can you do about whether coronavirus is happening or something else happened in the US market, something else happened in the China market, and the stock got impacted? You can't do anything about it. And there's so many factors. We all know that the stock markets are driven by multiple factors, not one. And actually, the performance is only within the time period when you have reported those quarters.
Correct, that's exactly what Deep was saying.
Exactly. So,
would you ever look at listing in other markets? I know this is not the time with what's happening.
You know what? It's not that this topic has not come up for discussion many times, but we don't really see any merit, to be honest. Because you're already there out there in public internet stock listed on one particular exchange. You have to see some kind of a merit, not necessarily just for the sake of it. So we don't really. For us, a brand is well known in India. A lot of the companies go out, list in India, thinking that they're going to actually do a massive branding exercise along with it. That was not our consideration in any case, because from a business perspective, consumer market perspective, we're very focused. We are just doing all kinds of branding activities out here.
I think the additional value is not commensurate to the effort. There's just very high cost, a lot of effort to maintain it. And to do dual listing, again, like Rajesh said, we should see incremental value coming from it. It'll be lovely to be listed in India, but then it's got to be, I think, much easier than today. Just managing two listings will be pretty hard. We have to have a heart for our CFO as well, I think.
Totally.
Mohit. Okay, so as I wind down this interview, I've got the two biggest guys in India's largest travel company. So tell me, going into the summer season, assuming everything is safe and all that, what's on your travel bucket list?
So I can tell you what's on mine. Very often it's linked to, I think, where the kids are ready to go. Both our kids are away in college, and they're both overseas, so it really depends on their plans. But we also travel as empty nesters, so I'm very excited about traveling. Hopefully everything stays okay. To Iceland. It's a country where we've been really keen to see, so would love to go and see Iceland. And with some luck, this is actually in March, I actually get to see the Northern Lights, but with some luck.
Okay.
So that's it.
And you?
Well, to be honest, I haven't planned it as yet.
Are you a traveler? Do you like travel?
Yeah, of course, I love it. And I love mostly the beach destinations.
Okay.
But let's see how it goes.
Oh, was this your idea?
Yeah.
The Shakathon?
No, this one I'll give credit to Deep, because this way, everything to do, every nice things to do
because you're
with
taking
the
experiential
office.
travel very seriously. It's in your office as well.
Yeah, no, I think that anything good you see around office, that you should give credit to Deep. Okay, so...
Second career is interior designing?
No, executive chairman roles.
With that, guys, thanks so much for joining us here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for having us.
Thanks.